All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. Like I said, welcome to the live stream. This is the first one I've done, and welcome to my channel. If you're unfamiliar with this, my name's Rick. I'm a registered nurse in the emergency department. I'm also a PMHNP student, uh, about to finish my third semester here in the next week and a half, and then we'll be on to the fourth semester. I'm in a 7-semester program, so still have about another year to go, and I try to help other NP students, PMHNP or any NP specialty, just by sharing my personal experiences, answering questions, and anything that I'm going through that can help. So please, if any time during this live stream you want to ask a question, then go ahead and do it right there in the chat. I'm monitoring it so I can see it and can watch it. And then I've got a few questions here that have already been sent to me that I'm going to try to answer. But the other thing that I want to talk about today is using artificial intelligence or using AI in your NP school studies. It's kind of a controversial subject, and there are some integrity and some ethical issues involved in that as well. So I did want to address those while we're in this live chat as well. So let me jump into that. There's still a few more people will be jumping in. Again, if you got a question, just throw it there in the live chat. So um, using AI, and I'm going to talk specifically here about using Chat GPT, which is probably the most well-known AI application that you can use, how to use it ethically and with integrity when you're in school. And those are important things. I don't want to minimize that in any way. So the way that you use that ethically and with integrity is to not copy it. And I'm going to get into more of that. Also, I wanted you to know I've put together a kind of a cheat sheet that if you're part of the community, if you're part of our my PMHNP Journey community, you can download that cheat sheet. It's already in the community folder. Just pop in there, it's there. If you'd like to get that, which is really 10 of the best ways I have found to use Chat GPT or use AI in a very ethical way, in a way that has integrity, just click in the link below this video, join the community, and then you'll have access to that and to all the other downloads that are available for people in our community. So one of the things that I wanted to mention in that is that one of the best ways you can use AI in Chat GPT in your NP school studies is in the research area. You know, you write a lot of papers. In fact, all morning before I did this, I was working on a 10-page research paper for one of my classes this semester. Thank goodness it's the last research paper that I have to do. But one of the great things is that when you find a research paper, you can actually copy and paste that into Chat GPT, and it will go through it and create a summary for you so that you can quickly get all of the important points in that research paper. And that saves you a ton of time. Now, what you don't want to do, and again, this would be unethical, this is not working with integrity, is to copy what Chat GPT puts out and then paste it and call it your own. For one, it's dishonest. Number two, most schools now have a way to detect when someone has used artificial intelligence to generate writing. So you got the risk of not only failing the class, but getting kicked out of your program if you do something like that. So again, if you want to get this list of 10 ways I use it, just click the community, click the link in the description. It'll take you to where you can get access to all those community resources. All right. So part of what I wanted to do in this live stream also was to answer some questions. So let's get to one here that was sent in before we got started. The first question was, how do I choose a specialization or area as a nurse practitioner? All right, so that's a great question. And a lot of people ask me, you know, how did you go from working in the ER to becoming or working towards becoming a psychiatric nurse practitioner? And let me answer that. There are a lot of different ways you can go about deciding on what NP specialty that you want to do. You certainly have interests, you certainly have experience, and that probably guides you some to where you want to go as a nurse practitioner, what kind of specialty you want to go into. You also have a you also have probably have some guidance from mentors, from peers as well that can direct you that way. One of the reasons I went there, and I'll tell you how I came to this decision. I actually did a whole video on that, and I'll try to drop a link in the description for that video as well. But the way I came about it was twofold. In the ER, I noticed that there is a lot of diminished resources for people that are in some type of psychiatric or mental health crisis. In fact, a lot of them sit for days in the ER and they don't have a way of getting to any help. So I wanted to change that for one thing. Secondly, is I looked at my community, the community that I live in. I looked at I looked at what was the biggest need in the terms of nurse practitioners. And I know that anecdotally, from what I've been told by my colleagues who have gone on to become family nurse practitioners, for that particular specialty, it was saturated. And the likelihood of me finding a job right away out of school was not as great as it might be with some other specialties. So I also, so that was part of the reason why I chose the specialty that I did. Another reason is that the job market was just better, and for PMHNP here in my community. And also, I was looking at a quality of life issue. And I don't want to sound like that is in any way talking down to anybody that's choosing family nurse practitioner or some other nurse practitioner specialty. I just knew for how I wanted to work and the kind of environment that I wanted to work in, that that being a psychiatric nurse practitioner was probably more in line with where I wanted to go. Third reason that I looked at it is how long was I going to work? If you can't tell, got a little bit of gray hair here. My working days ahead of me are less than the working days that have been behind me. Now, this might be it. This is a completely different story if you're in your 20s or 30s or even 40s, and you've got a few decades that you're going to continue to work. I don't. And I had to pick a specialty where I could hit the ground running, that was going to maximize my income, and that was going to be sure that I could get a position with age not being a matter, and also a position, frankly, that was not going to be physically wearing on my body. So all of that together came to, for me, to psychiatric nurse practitioner. So I think you have to look at all of these elements when you're trying to decide what specialty that you want to go into. So that's kind of one thing. Another question I have is, how did I find clinical placements? Well, that's a good question. And this is an area that is so hard right now for nurse practitioner students, and finding a place that they can go to finding a preceptor and finding a clinical practice. I actually did a video on this as well, and my go-to way of getting this done was on LinkedIn. I went to LinkedIn the day I found out that I was accepted into nurse practitioner school and began my search for preceptors. Now, I didn't start asking people to be preceptors. That was not practical, because it was going to be more than a year from the time I started nurse practitioner school to when I started clinical rotations. So asking for a preceptor that day was just not practical. So, but what I did is I looked for PMHNPs, people in my nurse practitioner specialty that were in the community, and I started making connections with them. I started asking them questions. I started letting them know what I was doing. And in about a month's time, I had built up about 100 to 110, I think it was, connections with working active psychiatric nurse practitioners in my community. Now, as I've gotten closer, in fact, in the next week or so, I have to have all of my preceptor paperwork turned in and clinical site information turned in, even though it's going to be 5 months before I start. I have 3 different preceptors now as a result of doing that. So, really, if you think about what's the best way to get a preceptor for nurse practitioner school, well, the absolute best way is your best friend is a nurse practitioner and they want to precept you. That's probably the best way to do it. The second best way to do it is your school goes ahead and reaches out and they find preceptors for you, right? And the next best way to do it, the third best way to do it, is through networking, and that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I did earlier. I started networking. So most people don't have number one and number two. They don't have their friend that's a nurse practitioner that's going to precept them. Most schools do not look for preceptors for you. My school has been helpful, but they made it very clear that it was my job to find a preceptor. So that only leaves networking, and you can get on the phone and call people. You can go knocking on doors to find preceptors. LinkedIn is by far the best way to do it, in my opinion, and that's how I did it. I had 3 preceptors committed before I finished my second semester of school. 2 of them committed before I finished my first semester. So now we're just in the process of getting the paperwork done, and I'm, frankly, quite excited to get started doing that here coming up in the next few months now, 5 months. All right, so no more questions just yet. Let me go back to talk a little bit about AI in school, and I just really want to emphasize this issue of integrity, this issue of doing it ethically. Um, Let me just warn you guys: if you use Chat GPT to write a paper, and you copy it and paste it and turn it in, you're going to get caught. You're going to get it. It's going to either pop up as plagiarism. It's going to be pop up as being flagged as AI created it, and you just run the risk of not only failing the class, but of getting kicked out of school. And there's a lot of ways that you can use AI ethically with integrity in your school. In fact, I put together that list, 10 ways that I'm doing it. And if you want to get that list, be a part of the community. Link in the description. Go down and register for that, and you have access to that and all the other stuff that's in our community. If you're watching and you're already a member of the community, then you have an opportunity to go ahead and download it now. It's sitting there right now. You can go ahead and access it and see if any of those methods work for you in doing your AI. All right. So let's see. We're about 15 minutes into it. I don't like to do really long videos because you guys have a lot of work to do. You got a lot looking at. So let me go and answer the next question that was sent to me before we got started here. How much RN experience do I need before I start clinicals? And this is a question that I think a lot of people get from the standpoint of nurse practitioner school. I guess part of that question is, do I need RN experience before starting school? How much RN experience do you need to go into clinicals? All right, so this is a relatively late in life thing for me. I had a career as a business executive. Then I started my own business. I wound that down and decided to, kind of the last years that I was going to work, to do something different. I've always been in the healthcare side, but I wanted to do something clinical. Didn't make sense to go to medical school or anything else, so I went the nursing route. So I haven't been a nurse for a great number of years, even though I'm older, and you might think that I have. But by the time I finish nurse practitioner school, I'll have 5 years of nursing experience. under my belt. Now, some schools require you to have RN experience before you can even get admitted to the nurse practitioner program. Mine didn't, so I didn't have to worry about that part of it. But I had a lot of life experience. I had a lot of nursing experience. I think having nursing experience, don't get me wrong, is invaluable when you go into nurse practitioner school. No question about it. And the more nursing experience you have, maybe it's easier for you in nurse practitioner school. Although I have found in just the short amount of time that I have been a nurse that I've had to unlearn a lot of things while I was in nurse practitioner school. For instance, I've only worked in the ER my entire time as a nurse. That's the only place I've been. And the core classes that I've been going through in nurse practitioner school are all primary care focused. So I've had to unlearn a lot of things, having no experience in primary care. I've had to unlearn a lot of the things that we do in the ER because they just don't apply to the primary care world. So I had to unlearn some of those. So in that way, maybe you've got to be a little careful about about your nursing knowledge you're going into. But bottom line is, having a lot of RN experience is going to be great for you going to nurse practitioner school, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I think life experience, I think dealing with people, being able to navigate relationships, not being intimidated by new situations, knowing what you don't know and when to ask for help, I think that is as valuable, if not more valuable, than when you're than a tons of RN experience going to nursing school. Okay. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions here. And that was really all the questions that had been sent in to me. This is kind of a first go at doing it live. I swear it'll be better next time if I do it. But if you like what you hear, if you want to kind of travel along this journey with me and learn more about what I'm doing in nurse practitioner school, go ahead and take a minute and click that subscribe button. Be great help if you can like this video as well. But if you click the subscribe button, you get all the notices about any new content that I'm putting out. And if you want to be a part of our community, just click that link in the description. That will get you to that download folder that I have set up where I put all kinds of tidbits in there. I put in resources that I'm using for school. I put in things that would be helpful for anybody in nurse practitioner school, not just PMHNP, although as time goes on, I'll probably put more specific PMHNP things in there. All right. Well, thanks for joining me in this live stream. I hope that this information helps you some, and we'll catch you again in the next one.